Good day, collectors and viewers. Social Distance Warrior is back, and today we're going to look at another famous alien from the original Star Wars trilogy, this time from Return of the Jedi, and that's Nien Nunb. So Nien Nunb made his debut theatrically in the premiere of Return of the Jedi back in 1983. I remember seeing this as a kid and being mesmerized. This brand new alien was familiar, of course, with Lando like everybody else was, and then Lando, of course, in the movie gets tasked with the second Death Star attack and piloting that Millennium Falcon because Han and his crew went to Endor to disable the shield. And Nien Nunb, of course, is his co-pilot. And again, I was fascinated seeing this co-pilot. He has this distinct look. He kind of looks like a mouse. He has those nice, glossy black eyes. And of course, he's got the red jumpsuit with the black vest sitting over it. And you instantly fall in love with this guy. And then you hear him talking in his native tongue, and his species is Sullustan. So he's a Sullustan alien. And he doesn't speak any English in there, but Lando understands him, and away they go into that second Death Star. And Lando says, "Here goes nothing," and then they go with Wedge. And nice little tidbit here. Many years later, when I was reading about the making of Return of the Jedi, there was an alternate ending to that movie that was screened to Steven Spielberg and company, George Lucas's close friends. And initially, the Millennium Falcon wasn't supposed to come out. They would have died and perished on the way out, trying to escape after blowing it up from the inside. And of course, with his close friends giving him some feedback, saying, you know what, you probably need to change that. It'd be better if you had these famous people and heroic adventurers escape that second Death Star. And so George Lucas did change it. So that initial scene when it was closing in and they were going to escape and it looked very, very narrow was supposed to be the death scene for Lando and probably Nien Nunb as well, because they were together on that Falcon. So thankfully that didn't happen. And of course we'd get Nien Nunb in an action figure form as well in that original vintage collection that came out in 1983. But the original release of figures that came out previewed Admiral Akbar just before the movie figures came out, and he was one of the first figures with a Revenge of the Jedi sticker and promotion on the back of the card backs. And then as they were making other waves of figures, Nien Nunb became the next figure that was the preview figure. I can remember it vividly as a kid. Like, two figures that are synonymous with Return of the Jedi were always Admiral Akbar and Nien Nunb. And I was always fascinated with the two figures. And I remember I had a friend of mine on the street that did send the mail away. He was one of the first people to get that action figure. We have him here. We're going to review him in a sec. Nien Nunb's interesting. He got his name in a very interesting way. So a lot of these characters got their names from different inspirations, because how are you going to name all these background characters? It's like a fun thing to do for the cast. And Nien Nunb got his name from the order in which his puppet was shipped to London. So when they were making Return of the Jedi, they were shipping the puppets and stuff to London, where they had the studios, film studios, and he was puppet number 9, and as a result, he got the name Nien Nunb. Now, the same thing would happen to his fellow species member, Ten Nunb. He got that name of his as well, just because he was number 10 in order to those puppets. So that's a nice, interesting little tidbit there you may or may not have known. Let's look at him in action figure form. Here he is, almost 40 years later. There's Nien Nunb. You can see he does have his nice, distinct look. You can instantly tell he's an alien and that he's a new character from a new Star Wars movie, which is awesome. All these guys had that same appeal. There was always something new about characters from Star Wars, from Empire, and from Jedi, and Nien Nunb is no different. So he's got the nice look to him. He's got a nice, detail here on his face. The eyes aren't painted black. They're a grayish color, but that's okay. We can do a nice little close-up of the face sculpt there, as you can see how well it stands up 40 years later, all the way around. And of course, he's wearing his pilot's hat here on top. It's a nice little leather hat that jumps, over his head, just above his eyebrows there, and wraps around his nice mouse ears. So as far as articulation there on the head, you can turn him side to side. Okay, and then of course over here he's got the nice blue vest painted on. You can see the nice little red collar up there. They really did a fantastic job on these action figures 40 years ago. Of course, articulation there on the arms, and he's holding his blaster in hand then there, and he's got a blaster unique to him. It's a nice little gray blaster, and you can see that's Nien Nunb's blaster, so you can go on extended adventures beyond the movie in action figure form. So that's his blaster. Let's have a look at him. He is capable of holding that blaster in both hands, but it is better in this hand over here. He's got his nice glove painted on there as well, sculpted onto there. We move down below the vest here. We can see his legs, and we can turn that leg up all the way. You can see a little foot peg there, and of course you can sit in your Falcon when they re-release that Millennium Falcon for Return of the Jedi. You can put your new crew in there, and Nien Nunb would sit there and help pilot that thing. So that's a nice little, detail look at him from the front. We look at him from underneath there. We can see his foot pegs. We don't have any details as far as year made underneath there, but that was common with some figures. And that's what he looks like from the side. And then we turn around from the back, and we can see the detail there around the back as well. He's it's simple looking, but again, he's painted, that vest is painted all the way around. And if we look at the pant leg here, we can see that it does say Lucasfilm Limited 1983 on the back of this guy. So that's Nien Nunb in his first release back in 1983. And there we go. Okay, so Return of the Jedi comes in and out of theaters. And like a lot of movies at the time, it went in and out of theaters, and then through popular demand, it got re-released. And Star Wars managed to hold on for a number of years after Return of the Jedi, probably for another couple years. And then they had a couple cartoons, droids and Ewoks, and then Star Wars went dormant. And then thanks to Dark Horse Comics with Dark Empire, and thanks to Timothy Zahn with Heir to the Empire, Star Wars made its triumphant return in the early 90s, as well as the LucasArts video game. We can't forget about that as well. Video games are very prominent, and Star Wars did make a healthy return through many, many medias, except for film. So, of course, Star Wars made its triumphant return in action figure form as part of the Power of the Force 2 in 1995, and we have to wait a couple years, 1997, but we would get Nien Nunb with a brand new release. Now, he did come on the green card back with a foil. I don't have that one here. We'll throw a picture up. I do have the figure. But then he was released 1 year later, again, on the freeze frame line. And I picked that one up as a spare one because I loved having the extra card art on the back with these characters. So I'll show you that one on the freeze frame from 1998. And there he is, Nien Nunb. Again, a brand new release for this character, brand new sculpt. He does come with a couple accessories there. You can see he does come with his blaster pistol, and they've included a blaster rifle as well. All these characters that came on the freeze frame line had these, freeze frame pictures where you could stick them into a viewfinder and then look at these things through a projector, and you can mail away for that projector as well. That's what he looks like there from the front, and you can see the Darth Vader logo there, Power of the Force 2. And if we turn that around to the back, we can see these figures have a nice little, detailed bio here on the back as well. The outstanding rebel pilot from the planet Sullust, Nien Nunb, served as Lando Calrissian's co-pilot aboard the Millennium Falcon during the Battle of Endor. And there he is with Han there on the back, and some rebel pilots, some rebel staff over here, the soldiers that are going to be on Endor. And of course, we see some other characters there and creatures from the Power of the Force 2 line, as well as a little checklist here if you wanted to check off the characters. And you can see Luke Skywalker and Bespin. It's got a really, really long name because it's in every single language over here. It's kind of annoying looking at it on the back, but that's your trilingual package. So that's Nien Nunb on card. Let's have a look at him loosed. Here he is loose. Again, he's got a nice, more of a brighter red as opposed to that original release. The original release, I think, had a nicer red that was more movie accurate. They really toned it down here. It's more of a flat red, kind of a mix between a red and an orange, but still, we know it's Nien Nunb right off the bat looking at him, and they've corrected the color of his vest. It's not blue, it's black here. I'm sure when they did the original one, they probably had production stills or photos to work with, and maybe it wasn't clear whether that was going to be red or, black or blue, and that's why the original one was blue. Now, more detail, of course, on the head, sculpting-wise, it's come a long way. They've managed to detail that, leather cap that he's got wrapped around his head a lot better here. There's a lot of details on it. It's the proper color. It wraps all the way around the back, and you can easily tell his ears are sticking out there. He's got that nice defined mouse look there. As far as articulation, you can turn that head side to side. Okay. He doesn't suffer from what a lot of the initial characters from the Power of the Force 2 line did with that beefy look. And he's got a nice standard pose, which is nice. So they've definitely toned it down as they've gotten to Nien Nunb in the Power of the Force 2. As far as articulation here at the arm, you can move his arms up and down. You can turn them at the waist as well, which was standard stuff here for a lot of the figures in the 90s. And of course, his blaster pistol, standard stuff that came with Han Solo and a lot of other characters as well. The DL-44 blaster. We can put that back in his hand. And then as far as articulation down here, you can move his legs up. So you have him sitting. Now they don't go all the way up. They kind of stop at that position. But if you move both of them up, you can pretty much sit him down. Just he's going to be laying down more than he is sitting in that position, because he can't move his legs up any higher than that. Now, down here we can see that they've done a little more detailing around his boots. And from underneath here, we can see that he does have foot pegs there, and it does say Lucasfilm Limited 1997 on that boot right there. There's his foot pegs. Over here it says Kenner China. So that's a nice look at him from the front. Power of the Force 2. And then there we have him from the side. And then we turn around to the back, and here he is from the back, and we can see that vest is painted all the way around the back there, and he's got some nice sculpting on the legs where he's got wrinkles on his pants to give it a more realistic look. And he definitely stood out nicely back in 1997. So we wouldn't get another Nien Nunb for a number of years. They had to go through, of course, a lot of other Star Wars characters that were more prominent or popular. And then we get a new version of Nien Nunb in 2009 as part of the Legacy Collection. Now, this is an interesting one because he's not wearing his movie garb where we see him sitting piloting the Falcon with the figure that we've got until now, that smuggler's outfit. He's in a B-Wing pilot's outfit. So he's an awesome figure. We're going to bring him forward here to have a look at him, but he's not depicted like this in the movie unless they were going for an expanded universe look. Otherwise, this character should probably be Ten Nunb, because this is how we see that character in the movie. He's the B-Wing pilot, and he had the red jumpsuit and some of the production stills as well, named Ten Nunb in that one. So you can see a long way we've come as far as sculpting and articulation on these characters. Legacy Collection was an awesome time to be a Star Wars fan. We're going to look at this guy in detail here. So we can see him here without any kind of, leather head wrap on or helmet on, and we get to see his head full on. It's on a ball joint there, so you have a lot of articulation on it as well. Detail. The eyes are nice in crystal black, nice little shine to it. Looks just like he did in the movie. Of course, we didn't see him with the bald head, but it's a nice, interesting take on Nien Nunb, and a lot more accurate of a head sculpt there. He does have a helmet here as well. He's a B-Wing pilot, and that helmet is attached to this hose, which runs all the way around. It doesn't detach here at the top of the helmet, but you can detach it over here at the side, which we'll look at in a sec. But we can get that helmet on his head as well to give him a little more of a realistic look in pilot form. So let's see if we can get that helmet on just to show you what it looks like. So here's Nien Nunb with the helmet on. You can see the helmet's nicely detailed. It sits over his head nicely there. It looks awesome. He definitely has come a long way. They have with sculpting on the characters on the Aliens ones, and this will look really, really good either in a ship piloting the B-Wing fighter or in your Rebel hangar with the other characters getting ready to go on an assault on the Empire. So it looks awesome on there. As far as articulation here, again, we looked at his head. His head's on a ball, so we can turn that fully around. We can take that helmet off. He does have a swivel here at the top of his shoulder, so you can lift his arm all the way up, which is awesome. He does have articulation here at the elbow, so same thing. We can bend him there at the elbow. You got to remember, this is 2009. We're getting awesome articulation on these characters here. As far as the wrist here, you can turn his glove side to side. That's as far as articulation goes. You can see mine still has the elastic holding the gun so that I wouldn't lose it. I'm not going to take that out, but I'll give you a nice little close-up there of the gun just so you can see. I don't want to lose that gun. I kind of have him standing like that in my ship hangar in my display. So that's articulation on the arms. As far as the waist, we can turn him side to side. He does have articulation to move up and down as well. Premium articulation there for an action figure that was released as part of the Legacy Collection. He does have these wrappings going down his leg like the other Rebel pilots did have. And they're a softer plastic and they're a separate material, so they move up and down, which is nice because as a result, you can actually bend his leg and have him sitting. So somebody thought that out really well when they were designing this guy. We can see some added, sculpting and the detail here on the belt as well. It looks what looks to be, bullets or ammo on his belt there. As far as his legs over here, as we work our way down, you can bend him at the knees, which is awesome. And again, because that piece is loose there, it doesn't get in the way. And of course, down here at the bottom, we can turn his feet side to side, and there is an articulation there to move his ankle as well. And it is painted red, so it's off detail there, but that's okay because you're probably never going to have him in that pose anyway. Just it's nice to have that. Now he has that same articulation on both legs. It just fixes his helmet there. We'll notice that the tubing that comes from his helmet here works all the way around to the side here, and it plugs in there. And if you wanted to, you could take that out if you didn't want to have the tubing in there. You wanted to customize this guy to use him as another Rebel pilot, you do have that option. And of course on this side as well. So there's a tube that runs here and a separate one that runs over here and plugs into his belt over here. And that one comes out once in a while when I'm trying to display this guy. So we're going to push that back in. Okay, so that's what Nien Nunb looks like from the front. Okay, we'll turn him to the side here. We'll look at him at the side. Before we go to the back, let's just flip him up to see if there's any foot pegs. And he does have foot pegs, and it does say Lucasfilm Limited there on the bottom, and I believe the year is 2008 on this foot over here. Yeah. Okay, so that's Nien Nunb, and then from the side, and then we turn around to the back. We can see on the back here that belt comes all the way around to the back part here as well, and the boots are nicely painted. They haven't cheaped out anywhere. The helmet's got a nice, wire running around from side to side, so they really went all out. I really love the Legacy Collection. The figures were detailed very, very well, and that's what we got as Nien Nunb. So we'd have to wait a few more years to get an ultimate version of that original smuggler Nien Nunb, but our prayers would be answered. Hasbro would announce and release the vintage collection in 2010, and then in 2012 we'd finally get a brand new Nien Nunb on vintage collection card in a brand new sculpt in his smuggler's outfit from Return of the Jedi. Prayers answered. And this is the ultimate version that we have. I do have him on card. We're going to bring him forward here to have a look at him. So there is the nice picture that he has on his card, reminiscent to the original one that came out in 1983. These figures on the cards just bring back so much nostalgia and look amazing displayed. So it's no wonder that people like to have these things carded as well as loose, just because, it's just such a nice homage to the movie. It's almost like having a magazine on your wall or a movie photo. So that's what he looks like on card there. You can see the nice Star Wars Return of the Jedi card back. You can see the nice name pill here in Nien Nunb over here, the picture of him, the Kenner logo here as well. You can see the nice new figure that we have displayed in the bubble there. He does come with a blaster and a rifle, which is awesome because that's how the Power of the Force 2 one came as well. And one of his pistol there is in the holster disguise. We'll look at that loose in a second. So that's him on the card from the front. Let's flip it around to the back just to have a look. And Nien Nunb is VC number 106, and you can see some other characters that were released at the time as well. And you can see they paid homage to that original design with all the different colored backgrounds. And you can see there's a lot of figures here on the back. This is the American card back, and of course there's some ships there that were released on Vintage Collection as well that you could get, that were from Clone Wars and from Revenge of the Sith, etc. So that's what we got from Nien Nunb on the card back. We're going to look at him loose as well, Vintage Collection. Here we go. So here he is in all his glory, in Vintage Collection form, Ultimate Vintage Collection form. And, they don't disappoint. They made an awesome character. They made him in a lot better scale. If we scale him to the Power of the Force 2 one, we can just see that he's shorter, more to scale as he should be in the movie because he's a shorter character. And then if we compare him to that original vintage one, we can see he's a lot shorter than him as well. But again, he stands out when you have him in your display for Return of the Jedi. Now, as far as detail and articulation, they've done a very, very good job on the paint sculpt here. Paint and sculpt. His eyes are a nice, dark black. As you can see there, we'll bring his head up close. They've given his head wrap there a weathered look. It's not just a straight brown. It's got a nice weathered, detailed look to it. And of course, you can see his ears sticking out. He's got the nice mouse look there, Nien Nunb does. Now, Interestingly, they didn't decide to paint the bottom of his mouth here like the original one was, and like the Power of the Force 2 one was. They just went straight color. So hopefully that gets corrected at some point in the future, because we can see on the photo over here, the skin tone is different from the top to the bottom on this character. And it'd be nice to get that on him there. So that's one gripe that I do have, whereas I love everything else about him. So as far as the head is on a ball, like a lot of all the figures were in the vintage collection. You can turn him side to side. He's got some movement up and down there as well. Do a nice close-up there of the head just to show you how he looks like all the way around from the front to back. Okay, and then as we work our way down here, we can see that he's got a nice vest on here. The vest is sculpted on top of his uniform, so it's not a separate piece, but it definitely looks like a separate piece. It gives it a nice, different dimension look there, some extra depth on this character. You can see his collars there. You can see pockets sculpted onto the vest there as well. As far as articulation here on the arms, he does have a swivel here up at the top of the shoulder, so you can move that arm all the way up and around any way you want. He does have the swivel there at the elbow as well, so you can bend that arm fully there. And of course, he does have gloves on, so no articulation at the edge of the hand, but you can turn that glove side to side as well. And you can see that his hand has got in position in that trigger finger to be shooting. He does have a holster as we work our way down here. He's got his belt on. What's interesting about this character, the immediate thing I think of when I look at him is that, like, if they ever decide to make another Snaggletooth, they could potentially use this body if they wanted to make the shorter Snaggletooth. And I know we've done that review recently, so that's an interesting little tidbit here on Nien Nunb. He does have a very similar look to him. Here's the holster. He's got a working holster. It's loose. It's not attached to the leg, so it's not going to get in the way of you trying to sit him down. He does have a gun there. We can take his pistol out. Okay, pistol comes out. That's the detail there on the pistol. And it sits nicely in that holster, and it gives him a nice, smuggler look if you have him standing with the rest of your rebels, and if you don't have him in the sitting down in the Falcon. As far as the legs, down here we just have a look before we get to them that we can turn him side to side, so he does have articulation there at the waist. And then with the legs, because that holster is a separate piece, we can sit him down no problem. His leg moves all the way up there. He does have articulation here at the knees, so you can bend him at the knees, which is nice. And he does have that nice little covering over his boot here on the bottom. They've even painted the buckle, which is awesome. And he has articulation here at the bottom as well, so you can turn at the knees, you can turn his leg side to side. And then of course here at the ankle, he does have that option to turn that ankle down as well. He doesn't have rocker ankles, which the newer figures do, but that's okay. This character is a shorter character, and he's probably going to be sitting inside your Falcon anyway. And we can see that that bottom part of the leg there above the foot is painted red. So if you do put that down, it looks like he's got red socks on. Okay, so that's Nien Nunb from the front. Nice little close-up of him. Straight shot. And if we look at him underneath here, under the feet, we can see he's got his foot pegs there. And they've detailed the bottom of his shoes as well. He's got treads working his way around on the bottom there. And if we turn him to the side, that's what Nien Nunb looks like from the side. Okay, we turn around to the back. That's what it looks like from the back. And they've gone all out on the vest here on the back. They've added the extra detail here on the back with the, pockets, which is awesome. Because, if you have him standing forward or backward, he looks amazing. And you can see how nice the holster looks like from the back as well. So they've gone all out with this character. And I remember this character, when this line was out at the time, you could get some of these figures aplenty. And I ordered this guy from a site here in Canada online, and he was on clearance for like $3. And I kick myself for not getting any more of them at the time, but who would have known that years later they'd be worth a pretty penny, and that's what they are right now. So that's the ultimate version of Nien Nunb. Now, great news, Hasbro has just announced that they are going to re-release him as part of the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. So you get another vintage collection re-release of this guy in 2023, which is great for people who couldn't get him the first time around. I'd be curious to see if they're going to fix him up and paint the bottom of his mouth over here the right color. I'm thinking they probably will, and that's their chance to do it. And let's see how he turns out, because we don't have any photos yet. We just had a movie shot saying that he's coming back. So that's a great character from Return of the Jedi, and it'd be great to see him again. So before we end our review, I did want to mention one more Sullustan pilot that we've had in Return of the Jedi. And that's, I always considered him as a kid as the brother of Nien Nunb. Now, they never had the character, but there was always this rumor there was more than one of these guys in the movie. And of course, when Power of the Force 2 came out in In the mid 90s, we got some more details or exploration on the original movie characters. And of course, in 1999, we get a Power of the Force 2 cinema scene called Rebel Pilots. And it would have a B-Wing pilot, it would have Wedge Antilles, and would have a brand new Solston character pilot that pilots the B-Wing, and that's Ten Nunb. So that's this guy over here. And I was fascinated growing up. Now, mind you, I'm already in my 20s by the time I get this guy in 1999. And here he is. I had to order it online. This thing never came out here in Canada. I never found that in the stores. But they gave us a brand new pilot. And you can see he does have the hose, just like the later release would have on Nien Nunb as well in the pilot's outfit. In very, very nice detail. And he does have the separate piece on his head here, the helmet, that is removable. So, you know, they've gotten a lot better with these characters as they've started to make them more realistic. And you can see the nice paint job on here. You can see the nice black shiny eyes as we turn his head around to the side and to the back. Full detail. We can even see that wire that goes around the back, just like the Legacy Collection Nien Nunb figure had as well. There is the tube that runs down over here into the front that does plug in. That is I'm not sure if it's removable. That hose is, just because it's in there snug. I don't want to risk it. He does have another hose hanging down here on the bottom. Again, not sure if it's removable. I probably could if I wanted to take it out, but I don't know if I'll get it back in. And that just kind of sits down there. If you had him sitting in your ship, you can pretend to plug him in somewhere. So as far as articulation on this guy, you can turn his head side to side. Okay. And then you have articulation over here on his arms where they go up and down. Okay. As far on that character. As far as the waist, of course, side to side. Okay. And then legs, they can come all the way up, and you can see they're painted nicely as well. They're weathered here at the bottom part with the boot coverings. And his boots are nice and black there at the bottom. If we look underneath here, we can see he does have his foot pegs. Okay. He does the peg just on the one side, which a lot of the cinema scene figures did. They didn't have on both sides, and it does say 1999 there on the bottom, Lucasfilm Limited, and then Hasbro China on this side over here. So that's what Ten Nunb looks like from the front. In his jumpsuit, that's what he looks like from the side. And then that's what he looks like from the back. And on the back, we can see that they've painted the weathering on the back of his boot coverings there. And then, of course, that other front part of his chest piece comes around the back there, and it's painted gray as well, which is a nice feature. As far as the helmet, I'm going to try to take it off here for the review just to show you. Let's see if I can get that off. So here's Ten Nunb with that helmet piece off, and you can see they've added nice detail on this guy. They've given a different tone here on his cheeks, under his eyes. It's like a grayish color, and then there's like a pink flesh tone that sits around the rest of the head. And then they've even used a different paint color for the bottom of his lips here, which is basically more detail than the vintage collection one was that we just looked at a second ago. So a lot of detail for a figure in 1999, and I loved it. And I love seeing these different color pilot outfits to populate my Return of the Jedi display, or if you ever do a Home 1 display, this guy would look great in there. So that Ten Nunb came in that set. Okay, so we get one more Ten Nunb figure, this time as part of the Legacy Collection's Evolution set. So he came with two other Rebel pilots in a Rebel Pilot Legacy set. And he's basically the exact same figure as the Legacy Collection Nien Nunb that we got released in the red jumpsuit, the one over here, except that he's in white. And he's Ten Nunb. So let's have a look at him just quickly here. We're not going to look at every single detail on him. He does have a slightly different paint job on the head here. It's got a darker brown inside on the head there than Nien Nunb did, but the helmet's basically exactly the same thing, just that it's a lighter brown than that darker brown on the Nien Nunb, but it's exactly the same sculpt. He does have that articulation here at the shoulders, swivel at the elbows as well, and of course you can turn his gloves, and then he has that same tube plugged into the side here, and then the other tube plugged into the other side over here, and the pant legs, and you can see that the feet boot coverings there on the bottom are a different shade as well, but he's exactly the same figure, and it's a nice welcome addition as well, because technically Ten Nunb probably should have been this guy, but it's nice to have him in this color because that's what we got in Power of the Force 2 back in 1999. So we've got that completed. Maybe we'll get lucky and we'll get another version of him released in the vintage collection, but don't hold your breath if we don't. This is definitely a viable option for you as well if you're big on getting the Rebel pilots. So that's Ten Nunb there from the front. That's what it looks like from the side. I love the black color gloves. It definitely stands out with the white jumpsuit. And then that's what it looks like from the back there as well, with his belt buckle here painted on the back as well. And that's the last Sulston figure that we'd get. Now, we get another Sulston figure in a comic pack, but we'll save that for another review when we start reviewing comic packs. But that's, of course, as always, I hope that you liked the video and that you've enjoyed watching it as much as I've enjoyed making it. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Please like and subscribe, and take care, and we'll see you again.